Hi, Becky.
Oh, he
Goes
coming back. Yeah.
There he is. Okay, hi.
Yeah, he's coming up that side of the hill.
Oh, shit. Oh, that was a mistake. You should have just hit me.
Yeah, what the fuck? I'm surprised that Legion didn't just hit you. He could have had a free down. He could have legitimately had a free down on you right there. But he decided to use his power. What? Would you like free Dead by Daylight coaching? Just join the Discord, read the VOD submission rules and considerations, and then come submit your VOD. Every Friday we will be reviewing VODs and giving you tips and tricks on how to improve your Dead by Daylight content. I hope you enjoy the video. Alright, so again, this is Reaper's VOD. Just to give some context, this was from our Swift Saturday, which is completely allowed. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Oh god, I can hear myself in the background. I hate it here. I hate it here. Reaper, I can't let you do this in the future.
For Gen, that's the edge of the map.
I can hear myself. I hate it. Alright.
Nope. God damn it.
I know this struggle of trying to find a generator. You're just trying to find one. You finally found one.
Way too long to have not found a gen.
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
That's lovely.
You're on the gen with me, and I know at this time I'm running Prove Thyself. You don't know it. I mean, you probably know it, but if you were in solo queue, you wouldn't know it. But doubling up with me on this gen was actually a good call because I have proof. But yeah, it's okay that it took you a little while to find the gen. I just like that you were running to find one. Like, that's really good.
It's a Legion.
Yeah, it's a Legion.
I don't think we care about his power.
Oh.
Yeah, they're immediately losing their power.
Yeah, they saw you and they immediately canceled their power. He's vaulting.
Let's
scary.
Not use that immediately.
Very good.
Nope.
Nice fast vaults.
He's smart enough to do this. Now he's going over
okay.
that again, so he likes.
Okay. I like that you're giving commentary, but I like going forward. I just want you to focus when you do submit a VOD. But I'm going to point something out to you that I don't know that you've noticed. You're at one of the strongest tiles in the entire game. I think this is really good that you went here. I love the fast vault that you did on that window. I was a little worried about it at first, not gonna lie, because I was like, oh boy, we're getting a little risky with that. But I loved it. So we did that vault. Right? So we vaulted in. And then he vaulted. And then we did this, which I was worried about, but then you vaulted in, which was fine because he was right there. Where is he right now? I honestly, I have no clue watching this. Like, I'm scared because your camera is not focused on that window right now, which is fine. Like, you're just trying to like focus on like, oh, I'm running out the door, so it's a little difficult to see, right? But when you vault that window, right as you're vaulting it, you want to be looking at this window to see which direction the killer is going to go. Killer might go this way, killer might go that way. Some more advanced killers will see that you're looking at them and they might fake one way and then decide to go like the other way. So that's why you should be paying attention to where the killer is when you vault, because you're stuck in animation anyway, right? And so it's really important to be aware, because right now I personally have no idea if the killer has decided to go this way or like towards pallet over here. Like I just personally have no idea, and I don't think you do either. Which can be very scary when you're running Shack, because or when you're running anything, because you want to react directly to what the killer is doing in that moment. Now we see a red stain. So he might be vaulting this window, or he might just be kind of like looking in to see like, oh, which side is this survivor going? I don't know. So we do see red stain here, which is nice. Keeping an eye on like what the killer is doing is very integral. But I think you're running this loop very well, so kudos to you. Also, I didn't get a moment to talk about your perks, so I'm gonna do that right now. We have self-care, no mither, inner strength, and solidarity. This is Reaper's meme build. All these perks are pretty much useless because of the no mither. So very funny, even though I literally said, you know, don't run no perks. Reaper's like, I got you. I'll run technically one perk. How's that? So that's fine. No mither pretty much makes it so that you are injured throughout the whole trial. You cannot be healed. That's why we have this broken status and we're injured. For those of you who don't understand or know like, well, what's the trade-off? No mither allows you to pick yourself up whenever you get slugged. You don't need unbreakable or anything like that. If you get slugged, you can just pick yourself up. If you're running a no mither build, I do recommend certain perks like unbreakable to pick yourself up faster, or even like flip-flop. Trying to think of like what would be a good, maybe tenacity, so you can like start crawling away while recovering so that you can pick yourself up with no mither. Just stuff like that. Like no mither can be viable in the right circumstances, but as you get higher up in experience and going against certain killers, they're going to see this no mither and they're never gonna slug you unless you have a team that is playing around your no mither and is aggressive with it, where they deny the pickup, basically. Like if everyone was running like flashlights, or if you fall down under a pallet constantly, you know, so in some way where you're threatening the killer, like, do not pick me up or else, you know what I mean? So no mither does have its viability. I'm not gonna say like it's a completely useless perk, but it does require a lot of cooperation with your fellow teammates, and it does require them to be more aggressive than what you'll probably find in most solo queue lobbies. If you are in a lobby and you see someone else has no mither, you can help them out a lot by just becoming super aggressive with the killer, denying pickups in any way that you possibly can, and just, you know, baiting the killer to come after you and just leave this no mither slugged. So there is some playability around no mither that people should be aware of. To make no mither more useful, gotta run resilience. Resilience is a great perk to run with no mither as well. I do agree with that. But I do also recommend, if you really want to get better at looping, no mither can be kind of put you in the hot seat a bit, because killers will see you're injured and they'll want to tunnel you more. And so no mither can be very useful in that regard to kind of like force you to get better at looping. It is very difficult because obviously if you get hit, you're downed. Like you only get one chance basically. So it can be difficult, but I still like, it could be something to consider if you want to just like fast track your progress as a looper in general. It's about to get to the part that I want to point out to you, because I feel like you might, maybe you know about it, but maybe it like you know about it, but you haven't internalized yet. When you're running Shack, there's just a hole. Whenever you're running any Shack, every Shack has a hole on what we call the long side. So we call this side the long side because there's no window here to vault through, and the pallet is like over here. Like this is the pallet. So we call this side the long side of Shack, and we call the other side the short side of Shack because it has the window and then the pallet on the same side. So that is considered, this is considered the short side over here, and we're on the long side. So when we're on the long side, it's difficult for us to see where the killer is, because we don't have this window here. Like, the window helps us when we're on the short side, and then we have the door over here, and then we have the back door over here. I'll draw the little back door back here. So you can see from these two doors where the killer is, and then, you know, the window as well. When you're on the long side, you don't have that. But what you do have is you have this little hole. You have this like little hole. This is on every shack. There is a little hole in which you can look through. You can literally use it to kind of like peek inside to see where the killer is. So if you, while you're running alongside, you can kind of look in this hole and you can see if Mr. Killer or Mrs. Killer is inside shack and which direction they're going. You can see them going this way, or they might be going this way out through pallet door. But you can peek inside and see if they've come in. We saw the killer was at the window last. We don't know if they vaulted through the window. So what would be really important for us is to peek through this little hole right here to see if they did in fact jump through this window, and are they at this back door right now. I would literally take a second to just look over at this back door through this hole right now. But yeah, you would use this hole to kind of peek in and see where the killer is in relation to you from this side. And what I would do is, after peeking here and I didn't get like any visual notification of where the killer was, like if I could not see the killer when I peeked inside, that means the killer is either on the short side of shack somewhere. I'll do S for short. That I just couldn't see them. Maybe I couldn't see them through the window or anything. Or they're like over here, like walking towards me over this direction, or they're coming out this back door in that moment behind me. And so what I would do is stand at this corner right here, because whenever you're running shack, you want to kind of like, if you don't know where the killer is, you want to wait at the corners, because from either side you can see where the killer is coming from, whether they're coming from pallet side or, you know, the back door side. So you stay at the corner and you can look from one side to the other very easily to see where the killer is coming from, and you can react in time. So if the killer does decide to come from here, you can react and go that way, which I think is what might happen. I feel like that's where the killer is rotating towards in this moment. But that would be how you would run shack. For Survivor, having information is very important, as well as for playing as killer as well. But while you're in chase, you have to pay attention to what the killer is doing at all times, because your decisions will be based entirely on what the killer is doing, period. You can kind of dictate, obviously, where you're going, which tiles you're gonna want to run at, but to an extent, you will be responding mostly to what the killer's movements are. And so it's a bit of a push and pull between killer and survivor, but more importantly, you're just wanting to pay attention to where the killer is so that you can more optimally run away and go to certain tiles that will protect you. So like that would have been an opportunity to look in. You have no idea where this killer is right now. We want to look behind us to see where the killer is. So if you looked in that hole and you didn't see the killer, I would look behind you to see where the killer is. I assume the killer is behind you at this point. Like, I assume they went through the window because we saw them vault that first time. And then they went through back door because they saw that's where you went. And so I assume that they're behind you, following you through the long side of shack. But we don't know because you didn't look, which scares me. We need to work on that.
I don't want to use that RX. People always get mad at me.
Yeah, I would get mad at you with 5 gens using God Palette, for sure.
Where is he?
Okay, now we know where he is, which is good.
Okay. I got lag spiked.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, come on, hit me. Hit me, hit me, hit me.
Okay.
I'll just take that speed boost and run with it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Because of course,
yeah, so that was just unfortunate. I don't know, like, I can't remember if this particular Legion had, like, if I had connection problems with this Legion. I think I did as well, but yeah, that was just totally the connection with the server or the connection with, yeah, I think it must have been a server spike. That happens sometimes, unfortunately.
Oh, there's a gen here. This is the perfect place. Okay,
yeah. Okay, so now we mend. Good. I think it was good that you decided to go to a different tile so that you didn't use God Palette at 5 gens. I think that's really important.
Legion's power.
So I think that was a good call.
Not going for the save, and the others should know that. So Becky should be the one going.
Yeah. So you made a good call here. You're definitely it's gonna be very difficult for you to make unhooks, which is right that you said SBO should do the unhook here. Plus you're on the other side of the map working on a gen. That's being communicated to your teammates, like you are on a gen right now, so you're injured and on a gen. Someone else should go for that save. And I think SBO does.
Save because it's silly for me to do so.
Uh-oh.
That was a mistake. I didn't mean to do that.
That's okay. So I would be super careful about vaulting this. Listen, everybody's done this. I've done this. I do this all the time, unfortunately, like, so I know. But you know you are in a corner of the map. You just are. Like, you know this. I know you've played enough DBD. You have 800 hours. So you should know intrinsically that you are in the corner of the map, right? The killer can only come from 2 directions. And you know the killer is not this way because you can see that way. You know they're also not coming from this direction, right? But you didn't realize you were in the corner? Oh, maybe this is my own game sense of the map then. Well, you were in a corner. So this is very important to keep in mind. Whenever you're working on a gen, it's really important to be aware of where exactly on the map you are. You are in a corner right now. I can tell you that just from I guess my experience. The walls look the same on this map. That's okay. So the reason why I know this is because this is like a Z wall with a window basically. It's one of the, like, when you're towards the edge of the map, you get those really useless tiles, right? And so this is the one with like the window. So I know that this is like the border of the map here, and this is like kind of like the edge of the map, so to speak. So you're in this like little cubby area of the map. So yeah, having that awareness would help you know that the killer might be coming from this direction somewhere. And so vaulting into this direction would probably not be the play. You're lucky that it's a Legion currently in their power, right? So they're not as much of a threat to you. But say like, you know, say it's a Myers, tier 3 Myers, right? You know, you're vaulting into this, or even any killer because you're running them either. But if you were healthy and, you know, you vaulted this and the killer's coming this way like we know they are, you know, that could be a problem, right? So just being like more aware of your, like, just having map awareness can really help you in these situations, because then you won't be panicking in a way and panic jumping through this window, which is kind of what you did. You kind of were like, oh no, there's a terror radius, the killer is coming, I better get out of here fast. If you had Lithe, I might be more okay with this decision, because you could just Lithe and just like get out of here, and you know the killer is not this way because you can see very clearly there's no killer over here. So that would be fine, and you would be in a better spot because you'd be taking the killer away from the gen that you were working on. But because you don't have Lithe, this is a gamble. And so I would just be more cautious about making these panic decisions going forward. And just definitely being more aware of where you are positioned on the map. What I would recommend is once you start hearing the terror radius and you're injured, which you are, I would definitely move in this direction and wait right here. Like, just be like chilling here. And usually the killer will come through this area because the gen's right here. And so they want to like catch the survivor, and you'll see them coming down this way. They'll be here with their little knife. Let me draw the little knife. Yeah, little knife or hatchet or whatever. And yeah, you'll see them and you'll be able to react to them, and you can run this way and do like a vault in here, or you can even run this way, like down and around, because there's a pallet like over here maybe. I don't know if there's actually a pallet this area. I feel like there is. I could be wrong.
Oh, that was a mistake. I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a pallet back there somewhere.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, he just wanted his hit, so he left you at that point.
That, huh?
Yeah, I think there's literally, if you run this way, like if you go out and around, I think there's a pallet like right in here. It's usually opposite of where the window is. That's how tiles are usually set up. So if there's a window, then opposite it, there will be a pallet. So if you have this tile, we're in a pretty big tile right here. Like this, all this like wood stuff and the window that's like over here, this is considered a tile. So usually when there's like a window, there's a pallet in the tile somewhere, unless it's a T and L wall, which are two windows. There's also other like smaller tiles, and I can always get more in depth about tiles maybe in a future video. But for the most part, like my game sense is that there's a pallet here somewhere. Like I said though, it's against the Legion. He just wanted to hit you. So after he hit you, so the reason why Courtney goes down is because you gave a free Legion hit, by the way. So that's just something to be aware of. The Legion does this where he'll hit 3 survivors. I think it's 3, right? And then the 4th person he hits, they go down. Or is it 4 and then 5? Like I vaguely remember they made this change to make Legion a little stronger. It's either that or he ended his power to get to Courtney. Is it the 5th person goes down? Thank you. Okay. I wish I could see it from Courtney's side, because I feel like he must have ended his power there.
That's not good
but
in terms of math, but...
So he knows, by the way, he knows you're here. He knows you're here, and then if he knows that this gen is being worked on, if he paid attention to how much progress there was on this gen, he might be...
Okay, so we got another gen done.
Hell yeah.
Still not great. Ideally, we want 3 gens done by first hook.
Okay, so that used to be true. I remember saying that like a little while ago. But with the recent changes that they made to gen progress, and of course with healing as well, it kind of, but mostly the gen progress, they made it a little longer to work on gens. That rule of thumb isn't as universal as it used to be. What my rule of thumb was a little while ago was you really wanted to like finish maybe a gen or 2 before first hook. Now that's not so much a feasible thing because of how long it takes gens to be done. If you can get it done before first hook, then that's a really good sign, but it's not as universal as it used to be, if that makes sense.
This is what we got.
Okay.
That's not the way to go.
Alright.
Okay, where is he? There he is, okay.
Oh yeah, he coming for you. This is great. Oh, okay. This is not so great.
He's coming into the chase. Oh, no pallet. That's death.
Okay, so there you go. So, you were the 5th hit at that point. So that's why you went down like that. I think you already kind of know right here. Like,
on
you
the
didn't
window.
know where he was, which
Yeah,
is
where is he?
fine.
There he is. Okay.
Maybe playing around the pallet would have been better until he was out of his ability, because if he wasn't in his ability, you would make that window 100%, right? I mean, hindsight's 20/20, but when he's in his ability, you will not make it as far as if he's not in his ability, right? Like, he moves faster. He's running, you know? I don't remember the exact speed difference that he has when he is in his frenzy, but I can tell, like, obviously he's a little faster, right? So when you saw how close he was to you, I would have maybe stayed at the pallet and just played that until he ran out of his power, or until, like, you literally, like, you would probably throw the pallet and, you know, force him to break it, and then you could run to this tile and jump the window. And then, like I said, I think there's a pallet over here somewhere. Like, I think it's behind this wall. Like, I'm not 100% sure. I think there's one back there. I don't know because you haven't looked. So this is just my game sense. I'm sitting here like, I think there might be one back there. So you could definitely have utilized this tile a little bit more because this gen is done, right? Like, if the pallet is gone from here, who cares? This gen is done. No one is gonna come over here except to, like, do heals. Once a gen is done in a particular tile, you can use the resource there. Like, it's not as important to preserve the pallet in that instance. So, I mean, like I said, hindsight's 20/20, right? Like, when you're in the moment, it's a little difficult to make these snap judgment calls, but definitely we should have been playing this pallet over here and then running for the window, right? I think we panicked a little bit once we got hit through the window, right? We kind of panicked, which is fine, but I also need you to be looking back after, like, while you're vaulting to see what the killer is doing, because, like I said, well, it's pretty usual that that a legion in their power is gonna vault this window, but it's not always the case, right? They might go around one way, they might go the other way. So when you look back at them, you're able to see where they're going, right? And if they decide to commit to this chase, like he's going to decide, we know what's gonna happen. He is gonna decide to follow this chase because he wants to down you. You can then respond by playing at this tile with this palette that I believe exists here. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it exists. You could play around this tile, you could play around this window, and just kind of waste his time a little bit, right? You can literally stare down on the Legion using their power at a pallet. Yeah, exactly. What are they gonna do? You can literally stand at the pallet right here. This is you. Being like, haha, get me. And the Legion, I'm gonna do a little knife. Okay, the Legion can't do nothing. They have to, like, they'll run in a circle. They'll, like, try to bait you to throw the pallet. They'll, like, do all sorts of things. But you can just sit there and just be chill. And until they lunge at you with their ability, you don't throw this pallet. Once you see them, like, lunging at you with their power, then that's when you throw the pallet. And then you knock them out of their power, right? So I think you might have panicked a little bit when you ran this way, because you also didn't have map awareness that this is the edge of the map. You're at the edge of the map right now. And so when you ran this way, you kind of got corralled into this corner, and it was no longer on your terms, it was on the Legion's terms. We also don't know where the Legion is gonna go because you're not looking, right? So we have no idea that the Legion is literally pathing this way because they understand that this is the corner of the map and they don't want you to leave. They saw you after you vaulted, they saw you go to the left, so they're gonna respawn and go to the left to cut you off to keep you stuck in this corner, right? And so that's really important to keep in mind. Oh, actually, never mind. We just heard them vault the window, of course. Like I said, a legion in their power, they can't help themselves. They gotta vault through the window, man. A lot of legions do this. I don't know why. They're just like, I'm in power. I'm in my power. I gotta vault to every window.
Okay, now he's coming to the chase.
Yeah.
Oh, no pout. That's death.
Yeah, so
oh, well.
You're on the edge of the map here.
Oh, is this the edge of the map?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
You just realized
got
it.
Me.
So, yeah. When you were working on this gen, that's when you should have realized, like when you first were working on it, that's when you should have realized you were at the edge of the map at that point.
Okay,
I think,
gens, 3 hooks.
like you said, you just weren't aware because it looks the same to you. It's the way that the map looks now, maybe. So just, you know, that comes with time. You'll get used to it. Okay, perfect.
Okay. Oh, you want to be healed under the hook? God damn it.
So, I know you're being like, what the fuck? You want to be healed under the hook? But yes. I believe this is Courtney who unhooked you. She needs immediate heals. She's on death hook. Anyone who is on death hook, like, you must heal them. That should be the survivor rule, like, across the board. If a survivor's on death hook, you are almost required to heal them, because if they get found and the killer knows they're on death hook, a lot of times killers will just tunnel them out of the game. And so you want to make sure that they have the best fighting chance when that happens, so that they can have like the best last chase of their lives, basically. So healing Courtney is very important in this moment. Yeah, not necessarily under hook. Like, it can be dangerous because you just got unhooked and everything. We don't know what the killer is up to right now. But what we do know is the killer is not currently in their power, or if they've just maybe used it, they haven't hit anybody, so they don't have any information. So there is a chance they might be coming back to the unhook because they don't have information yet. But I still think healing Courtney is a necessity. Now, you might move to the pallet that's like further into this tile and move like closer to that, so that it's like a better chance for the two of you to get the heal off without any interruptions. But I still think getting the heal done is very important as soon as possible. So yeah, getting this heal is very important. So now we know for a fact the killer is not coming back to hook because they're chasing Espio. They want the Stinkio. So now we can comfortably finish this heal without having to worry too much about the killer coming back to the hook.
This is a nice one. Well, it's actually kind of terrible because if he finds me here...
Yeah. I would not do this, Jen, if I were you. I don't know.
Okay, if he comes at me
Good
here,
call. I was like, I would not do this, Jen, if I was you.
As much as I want to do that, Jen, I can't do that right
10 out of 10. You get a gold star.
This is safer, Jen.
Now, you say this is the safer Jen, but I don't know how much safer this Jen is, to be honest. Unless you're rocking balance landing. Because you also have to keep in mind, like, if you fall off this platform, you're gonna stumble, right? Stumbling happens when you drop off a tall object and you don't have balanced landing to prevent the stumble. You kind of like, you fall to the ground straight down, and it takes you like, I want to say like 1.5 seconds to pick momentum back up to start moving, right? It's just something to keep in mind, not just for you, but for anybody when you're working on this gen. There's no like window or pallet up here that can really protect you. I think there might be like a window over here, like on the inside, like you have to run in and then vault this window. But by the time that you position yourself there, the killer might be like already like making their way up here. Depending if they're like a stealthy killer, you know? It can be really difficult to like pull that off. So there's just something to keep in mind. It is much safer, like you said, it is much safer than the gen you were on previously. So yes, I agree. You can still slide off the rocks on that main building. Yes, that is true. There are some rocks, like, I want to say it's like on this corner. where you can kind of like slide down a little bit. I still find that doing that will save you maybe like a little bit of time in comparison to just dropping off. It really depends on the situation, right? Against the Legion, it might help too, because the Legion has to like run in, run up the stairs, come up here, and then come and get you. And by the time they're there, you're already like down the rock pile, right?
Okay, now what I can do is actually go to the save.
Yeah, there's that stumble I was talking about. It takes like a couple seconds to like get the momentum back up, right?
Hi, Becky.
Oh, he coming back. Yeah.
There he is. Okay, hi.
Yeah, he's coming up that side of the hill.
Shit. Oh, that was a mistake. You should have just hit me.
Yeah, what the fuck? I'm surprised that Legion didn't just hit you. He could have had a free down. He could have legitimately had a free down on you right there. But he decided to use his power. What? You were so lucky. You were the luckiest no-mither to ever no-mither.
No, we could go up that way.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not familiar with all the changes on this map yet, so I don't play that much these days.
That's so funny.
Oh, that was a big dumb move.
Yeah, you almost got clapped for that. So that's the thing about that that hill that you have to be aware of. There's two ways on and off that hill. It's like a little ramp in a way. I don't know if there's any other maps that have that particular hill. I might actually have to look to see, but I believe this is like a newer addition to this map, is to have this hill which has 2 access points. I do know it has existed in maps before, so I'm not saying like it's just so new, but I did also notice this when I played on this map fairly recently, that it has 2 access points, and that caught me off guard because I was not used to that. I believe it might have even been on this exact map that I was surprised by it too. This Legion is using their power again to knock someone down. I feel like it's gonna be me.
Not the best.
No? Okay, so whoever gets hit next will be the one that gets down. It might be me, actually. Yeah. I was like, God damn it! I'm pretty sure it only occurs on Red Forest maps. I think you're right. I think you're right.
Yeah, it looks like he's coming for me.
Alright.
Nope.
I think
get out of the way so I don't interfere.
Oh, don't matter if you interfere or not.
That's fine too. Nope, he didn't fall for it. Okay, well.
Okay. Okay. So this is no fault of yours. I think Courtney brought the killer to you. It happens. You're gonna run into this in solo queue as well. If they're not running bond, or if you're not running bond, you can't be aware of this. You just saw the red stain. You saw, I think it's Courtney running this way. I think you run, yeah, you run the correct direction, which is away from the killer at this point. We need to be looking through that window behind us to see what the killer is doing. Because you already know that you're gonna go around this way. Like, you just instinctively know. Because you're gonna be trying to get away from the killer, and killer's over here, right? Because, yeah. Because now you realize that the killer's behind you, and you haven't been hugging this wall at all. Because you didn't think that the killer was after you. You thought that they were still after Courtney. And now they're coming for you.
That's fine too.
Right here is where you should be looking behind you and paying attention to what the killer is doing. What is the killer doing right now? I think that's gonna be your big, like, homework assignment. Is practicing looking behind you when the killer is around. Like, I call it keep your eye on the birdie being the killer. It's very difficult to do when you're in chase because you're trying not to like trip over stuff or run into like trees and stuff like that. But it's very important that you start getting into the habit of paying attention to what the killer is doing so you can more accurately respond to what they do. Because if you looked behind you in this moment before you decided to vault the window, you might see that the killer has already like predicted that you're going to do this, and they're going around to come and like catch you, right? And then you would be able to respond to that by like, oh yeah, I'm gonna vault the window, and then you just keep running this way, right? Because this is what happens. The killer is like right here, because the killer already was predicting that you were gonna panic and do this, and they already rotated around to come and smack you. So they gave you a little smack, a little smack-a-doo. Luckily they used their power on you, so you didn't get down. You've been very lucky with this Legion doing this to you, by the way. This Legion has been horribly generous to you. I'm just going to say that, like, there are so many times this Legion could have punished you for these decisions, and you kind of lucked out that the Legion decided that they wanted to greed for their information power, right?
Nope, didn't fall.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then we're just gonna do that, and we're gonna throw this so that I can...
Okay. You're panicking so much, and it's because you don't know what the killer is doing. Before you throw this pallet...
Do some shit. Or, oh...
Yeah, you figured it out, but it's too late. Right here
okay,
is where
that's fine too.
You should have been looking. You got hit. If you paid attention, he did this spin. He literally spun around to look to see if there's other survivors around. And I think you see his like red stain for a second.
Didn't fall for it.
Like, if you look behind you right now, you'll probably see I think he darts to the left. Like, he just goes, he leaves you and the generator and he goes to the left here. Because he's just like, he just wants his information.
Okay, well, then we're just gonna do that, and we're gonna throw this.
Yeah,
so
he went this way.
Or, oh, no, he's not facing me.
Yeah. So
He's
you just use the pallet.
That was a mistake. I thought
Yeah,
he was
yeah. So you just use the pallet, and you had no need to, because he was just doing a hit and run. We need to be paying attention to what the killer is doing.
This Legion really does not like committing to chases, and I should know that, because I've refused to commit to me a couple times when he could have gotten me.
Yep. Exactly. So you already know that, because, yeah, like you said, he very much does not commit to chases because he wants to get those hits. Oh yeah, I know he's coming back to you.
Okay,
I think you might have left this gen a little too early. I think you could have gotten it done before he got to you, but that's just me being nitpicky about stuff. Good corner. Good corner.
Waste time.
Nice. Very well done. No. No! No, God. I'm so scared for you right now.
He's gonna do that.
Yeah, he's got you trapped here. But it's
Okay,
good that you ran
very
away.
good.
Oh my
Waste
God,
of
you
time
were
here.
giving me such a panic attack right now. I was like, what are you doing? No! Just relax.
Hi.
Just chill. Corner, that's good. Waiting at
You
corners.
smart enough?
Yep.
Yes, you are. Good work. Okay.
Okay. We gotta keep your eye on the birdie. The birdie. Okay? When you know that you are headed for the window, like right here, you make a decision. Are you going for the window or are you going for the pallet? Because there's always a pallet over here. It's opposite of the window. There's the window here and then the pallet over here. You make a decision. Window, pallet, okay? And you made the decision that you were going to use the window because you wanted to preserve the pallet. I think that's a great decision. I love that. Gold star. When you make that decision, you gun for it, right? You're gunning for it. This is when you whip your camera behind you to look at what the killer is doing. Because if the killer is right on your tail, then you go for this window. Even if they hate you at that point, like, you go for it because it wastes their time a little bit that they have to go through the window, pick you up, or go around, or whatever. But you already have committed to going through this window. So your path is just straight. There's nothing in your way. There's no, like, trees or rocks or anything that you have to worry about. This is the perfect time to look behind you to see what the killer is doing, yeah? And if you see that the killer is not behind you, do not vault that window, because the chances are that the killer decided to double back and wants you to vault this window, and you vault right into him at that point.
You smart enough?
Yeah, so he is smart enough. So this is too late to be turning your camera around because you're already in animation. It's too late. You can't undo it. Once you commit to the action, you've committed. So this is too late to be looking behind. SBO comes for the rescue.
Well, let's do Courtney's and Chase again, so probably gonna die in a minute.
Now it's a race to see whose gen finishes first. I think it's yours. Yeah.
Okay, so we got a door there and a door there. Okay,
Good,
so I'm gonna go
good.
to
Paying
store.
attention to the exit gates, very
Probably
important.
Not the best idea. Door close to the gen was just done, but.
So yeah.
It's time for me to die. Thank you for the speed boost.
Okay. So the only reason he goes towards you is because of me, I think, because I gave him the information that you were there. But here we are at Shack.
As long as the others get out.
Okay. I don't like this. When you are in Shack in the middle here, it's so dangerous. I would prefer you to be at this back corner outside, looking that way and that way. Because at that point, then you have enough time to react, regardless of which direction he comes from. You could even be at this, like, other corner over here, this other back corner. That's, like, on this side. It's on the long side of Shack, right? And you could be doing the same thing. You could be looking either direction from that corner, just to see where he comes from. Alright, now, you did not, share the last screen. So, you know, next time, just make sure to show us, like, all the perks and stuff. I would say, based on the performance of this VOD, your number one thing that's going to be really important to focus on is paying attention to what the killer is doing, right? Looking behind you and chase. There are certain times in which it is better to do that than others. You know, when you are running, like, for the example, that window that you decided to vault, right? Like, you knew you were gonna vault for that window. It's in that moment where you're, like, running for the window directly that you can look behind you, kind of see what the killer is doing. Are they behind you? Are they committed to following you down that way? And if so, then you can vault the window. But if you don't see them behind you, then you can stop, don't vault the window, and then you'll probably see them walk in front of the window. And they might even vault the window to try and get to you, in which case then you go around to the pallet and you can use the pallet a little bit. So I would just say that's the biggest thing I would recommend for you to focus on. It's very difficult playing No Mither, so I'm always impressed when I see it. I'm always impressed by your gameplay with it. You did great. But yeah, we just need to focus on paying attention to what the killer's doing in chases, and you'll be an unstoppable No Mither in no time, for real.